Something is burning beneath Antarctica. Right now, there's a heat source the size of Manhattan buried 4 kilometers under the ice, generating enough energy to melt rock in a place colder than Mars. NASA's satellites can see it. Scientists can measure it. But nobody can explain what's creating this heat. And that's just one of 7 colossal structures hidden beneath Antarctica's ice. Impact craters, twice the size of the one that killed the dinosaurs. Mountain ranges that shouldn't exist. Rivers flowing in total darkness. And a pyramid so geometrically perfect, it looks carved. These aren't theories. Every one has been confirmed by scientific instruments and studied by international research teams. The question isn't whether they exist. It's what else is hiding down there. Number 7. The Wilkes Land Crater. In 1959, a Soviet expedition crossing East Antarctica detected something impossible with their seismic equipment. A massive circular depression buried 1.6 kilometers beneath the ice. Perfectly round. Over 500 kilometers across, big enough to swallow the entire state of Ohio. For decades, scientists dismissed it as a natural basin. Nothing unusual. Then, in 2006, NASA's GRACE satellites measured Earth's gravitational field, and over Wilkes Land they found something extraordinary. A gravity anomaly. Dense material at the center, surrounded by perfect rings of lighter rock, exactly like ripples frozen in stone. Dr. Ralph von Frese from Ohio State University analyzed the data. His conclusion? This wasn't a basin. It was an impact crater, and the asteroid that created it would have been 4 to 5 times larger than the one that killed the dinosaurs. Now, here's the disturbing part. The impact happened 250 million years ago during the worst extinction event in Earth's history. 96% of marine life died. 70% of land animals vanished. Almost everything on Earth was wiped out. And here's what nobody can explain. If you trace a line straight through the Earth from this crater, you come out in Siberia, where at exactly the same time the largest volcanic eruptions in history were happening. Millions of square kilometers covered in lava. Too perfect to be coincidence, some argue. The impact was so violent, the shockwave traveled through the entire planet, triggering volcanism on the opposite side. The evidence is circumstantial. Drilling through 1.6 kilometers of ice to sample the crater is currently impossible. But the gravity data, the magnetic surveys, the geometric precision of those rings, they all point to the same conclusion. Something from space struck Antarctica with enough force to reshape the planet. Number 6. The Ellsworth Trough. British researchers mapping West Antarctica expected mountains. What they found was something stranger. Dr. Neil Ross from Newcastle University remembers it clearly. His team had radar data showing both ends of something massive. But the middle? Nothing. Just a gap. So they used satellite imagery to fill it in, and what they saw made no sense. A canyon so vast it's visible from space, despite being buried under kilometers of ice. The Ellsworth Trough measures 3 kilometers deep, nearly twice the depth of the Grand Canyon. It stretches over 300 kilometers long and 25 kilometers wide. In places, the floor plunges more than 2,000 meters below sea level. Here's the puzzle. Rivers can't cut valleys below sea level. Water flows downhill until it hits the ocean, then stops. Only glaciers can carve that deep. Only ice, grinding over millions of years, can excavate rock below sea level. The trough formed when Antarctica broke from Gondwana, the ancient supercontinent. Massive cracks formed in the crust. Ancient glaciers found those cracks and exploited them, carving deeper and deeper. But here's what puzzles researchers today. The ice flowing over the Ellsworth Trough behaves strangely. Satellite measurements show unusual flow patterns. Temperature readings indicate the ice base is warmer than it should be in certain sections. Some scientists speculate geothermal activity beneath the trough, volcanic heat warming the ice from below. But without direct sampling, nobody can confirm it. What we do know, this landscape holds clues about how the West Antarctic ice sheet formed, and potentially how it might behave as temperatures rise. Because if that ice sheet collapses, sea levels worldwide would rise several meters. Number 5. The Heritage Range Pyramid. In 2016, someone browsing Google Earth noticed something strange in Antarctica's satellite imagery. At coordinates 79 degrees 58 minutes south, 81 degrees 57 minutes west, there was a mountain with 4 nearly perfect triangular faces meeting at a sharp point. The geometry was so precise, it looked artificial. The images went viral. Ancient civilization? Alien base? The theories exploded. Dr. Eric Rignot from UC Irvine knew exactly what it was. A glacial horn, also called a pyramidal peak. And the explanation is remarkable. Water seeps into cracks in the rock. When temperatures drop, it freezes. Ice expands with tremendous force, enough to split solid rock. Do this over and over for hundreds of millions of years, and chunks break off piece by piece. If the rock is uniform, all the same material eroding at the same rate, the mountain gets carved into a symmetrical shape. What makes this peak extraordinary is that uniformity. It's composed almost entirely of a single rock type, so all 4 faces eroded at nearly the same rate over eons. 3 ridges descend symmetrically. Only the eastern ridge differs, extending toward higher terrain. The Heritage Range is ancient. Fossils found here include trilobites from over 500 million years ago. These mountains witnessed the first complex life evolving in Earth's oceans, the rise of fish, dinosaurs, mammals. And throughout it all, ice and water and time were patiently carving this peak. You can see it from Patriot Hill's research base, a reminder that nature, given enough time, can create geometry as precise as anything humans could design. The mountain isn't alien architecture, but that makes it more impressive. Number 4. The Gamburtsev Subglacial Mountains. In 1958, a Soviet expedition traversing East Antarctica's interior used seismic equipment to probe beneath the ice. The echoes told them something impossible. A mountain range. Massive. Peaks over 2,700 meters tall. An entire alpine landscape buried beneath the ice. The problem? East Antarctica sits on one of Earth's oldest, most stable continental blocks. This region hasn't had mountain building activity in hundreds of millions of years. No earthquakes, no volcanic eruptions, no continental collisions. Mountains need active geology. They need plates crashing together or magma pushing up. None of that exists here. So how could an entire mountain range be hiding under the ice? For 50 years, nobody could answer. Then came the International Polar Year Expedition from 2007 to 2009. 7 nations flew specialized aircraft with ice-penetrating radar, gravity meters, and magnetometers over the region. Dr. Fausto Ferraccioli from the British Antarctic Survey led the analysis. What they discovered rewrote geology textbooks. The Gamburtsev Mountains formed from events spanning 1 billion years. About 1 billion years ago, before complex life existed, several microcontinents collided. The impact created massive roots of rock punching deep into Earth's mantle. Over time, erosion wore away the surface mountains, but those roots stayed, locked in place. Then, 250 to 100 million years ago, the crust began to rift. Heat from below warmed those ancient roots. Slowly, they became buoyant and pushed upward, reforming the mountains. Rivers and glaciers carved valleys into the rising peaks, and 34 million years ago, snow began to fall. It never stopped. The East Antarctic ice sheet formed, starting right here. The ice spread outward, eventually covering an area the size of Canada, and the mountains became entombed, perfectly preserved. Dr. Robin Bell from Columbia University points out the irony. We have rock samples from the moon, but zero from the Gamburtsev Mountains. Those peaks are still there, 2,700 meters tall, sharp ridges, deep valleys. An alpine world that hasn't seen sunlight in 34 million years. And nobody has ever touched them. Number 3. Lake Vostok's magnetic anomaly. Imagine a lake the size of Lake Ontario buried under 4 kilometers of ice, sealed off from sunlight and atmosphere for 15 million years. That's Lake Vostok. In the 1960s, Russian geographer Andrei Kapitsa found it using seismic data. Most scientists didn't believe him. How could liquid water exist under miles of ice? But he was right. The lake exists because of perfect balance. Geothermal heat from Earth's interior keeps water just warm enough, while crushing ice pressure lowers the freezing point. Result? Liquid water at -3 degrees Celsius. The lake is 240 kilometers long, 50 kilometers wide, over 1,000 meters deep, completely isolated in darkness. Now here's where it gets strange. When scientists mapped the lake's magnetic field, they found a powerful anomaly at the eastern edge. Something down there is dense and highly magnetized, and nobody knows what it is. In 2012, Russian scientists drilled through the ice and extracted frozen lake water samples. Analysis revealed over 3,500 species of microorganisms, bacteria adapted to extremes that would kill almost anything else on Earth. But the magnetic anomaly? Still unexplained. Some think it's a buried meteorite. Others suggest volcanic rock or unusual mineral concentrations. But the source sits beneath the lake, beneath the ice, in a place no human has ever reached. The implications are profound. Lake Vostok may hold ecosystems that evolved separately from Earth's biosphere for 15 million years. Life adapted to conditions we're only beginning to understand. And whatever is causing that magnetic signature adds another layer to the mystery. So the question remains, what's pulling at our instruments from the depths of Lake Vostok? And what else is waiting down there? Number 2. The subglacial river network. For decades, scientists assumed water beneath Antarctica stayed trapped in isolated lakes. Then satellites started detecting something unexpected. The ice surface was rising and falling in specific regions over months or years. Dr. Helen Fricker from Scripps Institution analyzed NASA's ICESAT satellite data. What she found was extraordinary. Lakes beneath the ice were draining and filling in coordinated patterns. When one lake filled, the ice rose. When it drained, the ice sank, and the water was moving. Hundreds of kilometers away, another lake would start filling. Antarctica has rivers flowing beneath the ice, not small streams. Some channels transport more water than London's River Thames. They connect over 400 subglacial lakes, moving water from the continent's interior toward the coast. Here's how it works. Meltwater collects at the ice base from geothermal heat and friction. It pools in bedrock low spots, forming lakes. When a lake fills beyond capacity, pressure forces water through channels, sometimes for hundreds of kilometers, until it reaches another basin. The cycle can take decades. Lakes fill for years, then drain in months, sending billions of liters rushing through subglacial channels. The implications are profound. These rivers affect how ice slides over bedrock. Water lubricates the base, so the ice sheet moves faster toward the ocean. The rivers also transport heat, redistributing geothermal energy across vast distances. Recent mapping revealed a system in Recovery Ice Stream that dwarfs anything known before. One channel, 460 kilometers long, drainage basin the size of France, water flowing several meters per second in sections. Here's the disturbing part. In 2019, researchers found that surface melting can trigger subglacial lake drainage hundreds of kilometers away. As Antarctica warms, this hidden river network may accelerate ice sheet collapse in ways current models don't account for. We're only beginning to understand how this system works. Number 1. The Thermal Anomaly Zone. In 2018, NASA's Operation Icebridge was surveying Antarctica when instruments detected something unexpected over Marie Byrd Land. Heat. Massive amounts, coming from deep below the ice. A concentrated heat source roughly 50 kilometers across, the size of Manhattan, generating enough thermal energy to melt ice from below. Dr. Helene Sarusi from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory traced the heat to a volcanic source buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface. And what they found was both fascinating and terrifying. There's an active volcano down there. Seismic sensors detect small earthquakes, microtremors consistent with magma movement. Temperature measurements show bedrock reaching several hundred degrees Celsius. The heat flux is 150 to 200 milliwatts per square meter, about 6 times higher than typical continental crust. This creates a hidden world between ice and rock. Vast cavities form where heat melts the ice base, chambers filled with liquid water and steam, some measuring kilometers across. Radar detects them as bright reflections. West Antarctica sits above a mantle plume, a column of hot rock rising from deep inside Earth, similar to what created Hawaii and Yellowstone. But this Antarctic plume shows unusual activity. It may have been erupting intermittently for millions of years, hidden beneath the ice. Here's the terrifying scenario. If the volcanic system experiences a major eruption, it could destabilize a significant portion of the West Antarctic ice sheet. Massive ice melt from below would create enormous water volumes at the base, lubricating it. The ice sheet would slide toward the ocean much faster than predicted. If the West Antarctic ice sheet collapses, which some scientists think could happen this century, global sea levels would rise 3 to 5 meters. Coastal cities worldwide would flood, hundreds of millions displaced. Current monitoring shows the system relatively quiet. Yet, for decades, scientists assumed Antarctic bedrock was geologically dead. Now we know that's wrong. Beneath the ice, Antarctica is alive, and we're only beginning to understand what that means. 7 colossal structures hidden beneath Antarctic ice. Impact craters that may have triggered Earth's worst extinction. Canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon. A pyramid carved by hundreds of millions of years of erosion. Ghost mountains the size of the Alps. A lake sealed away for 15 million years with a magnetic mystery. Rivers flowing in darkness. And a volcanic system actively melting ice from below. But here's the thing. Over 98% of Antarctica remains buried under ice, unexplored, unmapped at high resolution. What else is down there? What other geological wonders are hiding beneath the ice, waiting to be found? The structures we've seen today prove that absence of knowledge isn't absence of phenomena. Antarctica has been concealing these features for millions of years. The question isn't whether Antarctica has more secrets, it's which one will be discovered